And there's sort of a prevailing wisdom nowadays that, you should, try and, compromise, give in, with a lot of religious folks, will use the term be mavater. And that is important. You do have to learn how to compromise, and maybe you are a little rigid. Okay, you got to be flexible. But that doesn't get you anywhere near as far as you need to go in a relationship. There's going to be real conflicts. And by avoiding conflicts, what ends up happening is you have the conflict in public. If you don't work out and fight out with your spouse, your philosophies of money or child rearing, well, I tell you what, you're going to be having those conflicts in public when it's least polite, when it's least comfortable. It's going to rear its ugly head at every turn. And the more that you avoid these issues, the more they actually take on a life of their own. And what ends up happening in a relationship is that these things that do need to be fought out, that do need to be, deeply, deeply debated and negotiated, end up becoming monsters, turning into high conflict relationships. In the research, what comes out is, the conflict, whether it's in the form of criticism or contempt, well, those are two huge predictors of divorce. And defensiveness being a third. So within treatment with couples, the primary focus is on learning how to fight well, to learn how to reduce conflict in the sense of not being critical, in the sense of not being contemptuous, but actually increasing conflict in the sense of being able to directly and honestly talk about these issues that are there already and are just simply not going to go away. Something that researchers like Gottman have shown is that 70% of fights that people have, genuine conflicts, are going to be perpetual conflicts. They're not going to go away. So, the same guy who's leaving his socks out on the floor that's driving you crazy when you guys are 21, 25, it's going to be the same guy when he's 40, 45. He's still leaving those socks out. And so one part of learning how to deal with conflict is learning how to hold and accept the things that are. But then really working on that other 30% that can be resolved and needs to be resolved for you guys to be able to have a marriage that is deeply meaningful and loving. Another part of working with couples is, sure, we have to negotiate those things. Sure, we have to fight those issues out. But what about the beauty in the relationship? The things that connected you guys together. That a lot of times people end up getting married and living with each other, and they end up becoming two ships passing in the night. They're having two separate lives, and they happen to be really good roommates. So another part of marital therapy is rediscovering each other, having those weekly dates, having those meaningful conversations, having those beautiful experiences together. That is the point of why you guys ended up together in the first place. It wasn't to fight all day. It was to share a life that you both found rich and meaningful and beautiful together. So, within that context, within taking for granted, okay, there's going to be fights, we have to work on how to be less critical and less contemptuous and less defensive. Realizing, okay, we have to be able to sniff out meaning, really get into the guts of why is there love there to begin with. It also demands getting in touch with feelings, being honest with the feelings we have towards our spouse and towards ourselves. The feelings of being inadequate, maybe, that we feel like, well, why can't we measure up? And that, especially for men, that leads for men just to shut down and stonewall, which is a fourth predictor of divorce. Or, getting into the feeling of feeling abandoned, feeling resentful towards the person you thought that, well, man, weren't they supposed to be there with you 110%? Where do they go? So there's an honesty that needs to be cultivated in a relationship to genuinely make room for these feelings and to learn how to talk about them, accept them, that the other person has them, accept them, that you yourself have them. But then to take that one step further and to be vulnerable enough to share that and make that a part of the relationship with your spouse. Well, that takes work too. And all these components come out at the end of the day of reducing conflict, getting rid of conflict in this negative sense, of increasing negotiation, increasing the discussions you need to have, but not in this bitter way, but in this way that actually that turns out to be the glue that binds you together even stronger than when you first got married.